Hello and welcome again to Homeopathy, Mathematics, and Science. The average natural background exposure rate per year versus its 8,760 hours per year average. In Japan, it's half a millisievert a year total exposure. That's a lot. Now that works out to, 60 nanosieverts per hour. In the United States, we get 2 millisieverts per year exposure. That's actually what happens in background radiation level. That works out to 230 nanosieverts per hour. So we're going to look at that, and then I'm going to get to a little bit of an update on an old story about someone who was supposed to have been the only casualty caused by Fukushima, because, Lord knows, throwing the Fukushima fearmongers, you gotta throw them a bone. So here we are. This was the May 4th, 2011 radiation levels in Japanese, tepco.co.jp, NU, Fukushima NP, F1, index-J, HTML file. Whether this is updated or not, I don't care. I wanted the oldest raw data from a graph, and I got it. Microsieverts per hour was 210, and then it dropped down at this point to around 140 microsieverts, not nanosieverts, per hour. Okay? Well, I'm sure there's an update. Let's look at the numbers listed here. Now, again, nothing says quality like 2-digit year and centuries for some reason. By the way, we don't actually know what that was graphing because it's in Japanese, but it looks scary. That looks like it's almost exactly 1,000 times higher than it's supposed to be during a nuclear accident. So anyway, here we go. I'm assuming 11 is 2011, and I'm assuming it's August 9th, or it could be September 8th. Again, let's not use 4-digit years. That's just crazy talk. So anyway, let's go ahead and look at this. These are the different locations. Nanosieverts per hour, nuclear power plant. Okay. Fukushima, there we go. That's 320 micro, so it's 312,000 nano. Okay? And then Fukushima itself, well, it's way down. Again, this is nanosieverts. That's 10 times higher, or actually 5 times higher than it's supposed to be, but, okay. And here we go with these locations. This is a resource for everyone to look up, and you can see the information here as far as the areas that were tested. This is the raw data map list as of that date. Obviously, you can go forward in time and get different map information. Here is the map that used to work using Google's API, but now the newer versions always bring up an error message because they decided that it'd be a good idea to screw up their own product. And this shows over basically 1,000 times the nanosievert level per hour that you should in that one area. Now, obviously, this is overdoing it because it's covering everything, but there we are at thousands of times the nanosievert rating, and then everything else is within rating. The purple is the overdrive. We go forward in time if we can here. And we now see that it's down to 14,000 nanosievert per hour. And let's look at the timing on this. 22nd of February 2013. 2018, it's showing that rating at Fukushima. Max rating, correct? This is where you have to go look this up on the website. And in here, we see it going back up, May 2018. Is this accurate? Where is this from? Where is that physically located? Well, okay. Now we go on to the next one. Oh, we're sorry. They decided to do a full screen pop-up version of this. And Google, if you reload this, I'm not going to reload it, decided to disable their mapping utilities. This was raw data, unadjusted, etc. And here we go with this. And here we go with this one, where I'm looking at the web archive, and I've archived it under Archive Today, and you can see the mapping utility doesn't want to work, but it tried to in August, sorta. So anyway, that's your resource for the day. Look at current levels. You can look up the curves and the old data. You have to go backwards through it, and you can look up worst and not worst case scenario based on comparing it directly to background levels in Japan, which is 0.5 millisievert per year, and 2 millisieverts in the United States. Now I'm going to go through and we're going to discuss this next part. 2018, the BBC, Reuters, or Reuters, or whatever, Reuters, and several other websites said that there was one death from Fukushima, but the Japanese version of the page that a lot of them cited, I finally dug it out, it took a lot of work, at the time didn't say the same thing. So I'm going to cover this. This is at the Shunsuke Kamiashi, or Mainichi newspaper, Tokyo City News Department, Morning Edition. September 5th, 2018, Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, emphasis added, announced on April 4th that it was certified that someone had died in an occupational accident. He was in his 50s, and he died from lung cancer after engaging in radiation dose measurement work after the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant accident. Timing of his death was withheld in accordance with his bereaved family's wishes. Okay. The cause was determined by a panel of experts specializing in radiology, not nuclear power maybe, or nuclear exposure, and other disciplines for their opinions. Now, this is where things get a little weird. The man had been working since 1980 to 2015 at Japanese atomic power stations for 28 years. You notice the millisievert ratings I gave you? His dosage as of December 2011, total for that year, was 34 millisieverts. So that's over 10 times the dosage a person gets in the United States. It's very high. From Fukushima is the explanation. In 2015, not related to the emissions from Fukushima, September, unknown because they didn't tell anybody, before he was diagnosed with cancer, he had been exposed to 74 millisieverts, and this caused him to have, now this is the important part, for 28 years cumulative exposure, it was almost 200 millisieverts for the entire period of time for almost 30 years of his life, working in every nuclear plant. Now let's subtract a little bit here. We have around, at this point, you could say 110 millisieverts from 2011 to 2015. Okay, now let me repeat that. It's 110. So that means before 2011, he had a total of 85 millisieverts of exposure from before Fukushima happened. So now let's review here for a minute. From 1980 to 2011 or 2010, before the Fukushima accident, he had been exposed to the equivalent dosage of 4 years at Fukushima or wherever he was working. He worked around everywhere else too. It wasn't just Fukushima. And that accounted for 85 before then. But it had to be Fukushima that caused this, so it's directly related to his death. He was diagnosed with lung cancer, which takes an inordinately long period of time to happen, and it would be caused, if you were going to say it's from radioactive material or radiation exposure. Radiation exposure would cause cancers not in the lungs specifically, and if it's in the lungs, it's almost exclusively particulate matter, unless it's not involved. I mean, it would have to be in the pleura of the lungs, the exterior part of the lungs. They don't specify that, of course. He was diagnosed in 2016 with lung cancer, not that he could smoke like a chimney and cause the same damn thing, and they decided that even though he'd been almost a 30-year veteran of nuclear plants, from 1980 to 2011 before Fukushima, they would decide 4 years of exposure, not necessarily at Fukushima, but afterwards, was his actual cause. Even though less than, and I'm going to emphasize this, no matter how you spill this, less than half of the exposure was caused you could try to attribute it to Fukushima. More than half of his exposure was before Fukushima happened, just working as a nuclear plant worker. And his total exposure, they said, was 200 millisieverts, which means, legally speaking, they have to say that his cancer should be, if they wanted to push it, associated with him working at nuclear power plants for 30 years almost. But because he worked at Fukushima, this was then decided to be caused by Fukushima. And again, emphasis added, it was 34 millisieverts maximum from Fukushima exposure during the emissions out of almost 200. But yeah, it's all Fukushima's fault. And again, less than half of his exposure, if you were being generous, would have happened after Fukushima. The majority of it happened over a longer period of time, I guess. I mean, 1980, 90, that's 10 years. 2000, 90, 30 years of exposure almost. Just saying. 1980, 2000, but no, it's 4 years of dosage that did it. So yeah, basically he got lung cancer. He could have been a smoker. We don't know. The Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, government quotes, are attributed to saying the following. It was decided last Friday, this actual reference was for August 31st, 2018. Also in the same time, it was ruled and granting in favor of workman's compensation on the same day, but it was said April 4th, he was certified as an occupational accident. Only the Japanese version actually told you that. And then coincidentally, it says it was announced September 4th. What if this was actually the 9th it was certified and they just got these numbers swapped because people don't know how to write time and date stamps in ISO format like I insist on doing? And really this was an old story by September of something that happened really on April 9th. He was certified as an occupational accident and then they did the story later? I don't know. Getting this stuff unsorted from the web pages on the Japanese site, almost impossible. Anyway, it was announced and confirmed as work-related here, but it was said here. And I like how the stories talk about it being a specific date, and they did it as numbers, when it could have been just this, and it was actually a 9. The quotes from the government may have been much earlier, but again, I'm going to review for emphasis added. The guy who's supposed to have died from Fukushima radiation, less than half of the radiation exposure happened after Fukushima happened. It wasn't necessarily caused by Fukushima, and the majority of his exposure was caused by just being a nuclear plant worker. And his supposed diagnosis happened after he stopped working everywhere. And that meant that his family could collect. Or he might have found out that he had cancer beforehand, had them remove the diagnosis, and just kept working in the nuclear industry until he couldn't do it anymore so he could get compensation for his family, which is very Japanese of him. And I appreciate and respect this person for at least trying to take care of his family. Just saying. Anyway, in the United States, you're exposed to around 230 nanosieverts per hour, which works out to 2 millisieverts per year. And it's half a millisievert per year because Japan is unusually safe, and they get about 60 nanosieverts per hour background radiation for a year that is 8,760 hours. And that is the graph as of May 4th, 2011. And I can't read Japanese here, but it does indicate these areas, and this is obviously the Fukushima location. So that's saying it was that's microsieverts, about 1,000 times higher than it should be for background radiation, right near a nuclear power plant. But these sensor stations show a flat line at 10, which would work out to be, let's see, that's, actually by 115 it shows, so you can decide what you want to here, but unless you were right in the plant area, But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.